Helldivers Hardcore.
Wait, what the hell?
Again, only one life from difficulties 1 to 9 in one go, but this time I'm doing the bots. Now, I haven't gone against these guys for a while, mainly because I've been doing runs with the bugs. And since a few of you suggested it in the comments of the last video, I thought to give it a try. After all, how bad could it really be? Before I could actually start the attempts, I needed to remember how the bots work. So I started off with medium difficulty and wanted to see how well I would do. While we're here, I might as well get to know each type of bot. Trooper, Raider, Marauder, Scout Strider, Berserker, Devastator, Hulk, Tank, Gunship, and Factory Strider. Troopers. They're easy to kill and carry a gun. Headshots do the most damage to them, so always aim for the head. Rocket Raiders are troopers with rocket launchers. MG Raiders are troopers with a machine gun. Brawlers are troopers but with two blades that chase you down until you kill them. Scout Strider is a tall robot piloted by another robot. For some reason, whoever was in charge in the Automaton factories forgot to add armor around the back of the Strider, leaving the pilot exposed. If you have an explosive, use it on the area between the gun and the legs, or go around the back. The normal Devastator has a lot of armor, meaning that the only way you can kill it is by shooting their exposed head. Hulks are these huge, heavily armoured robots that have a lot of firepower, literally. Their only weak spots are the tiny heads in the front and the huge glowing vents in the back. The Automatons also have literal tanks, which act exactly how you think they would. Gunships are a bit newer and fly around in the air. They can alert other automatons of where you are and rain down lasers. On some missions they can go around on patrols, making it harder to avoid being seen by the bots. And finally, we have the Factory Strider. They appear in the later difficulties, so knowing me, I probably won't get to see it a lot. This beast pumps out Devastators and is very heavily armoured, with it being able to hold up against a 500kg bomb. So that's all the automatons, and I've warmed up a bit, so it's time to finally get into Attempt 1. I had absolutely no idea what loadout to go with, so I guessed. The Orbital Laser and Eagle Airstrike seemed like a good option, so I went with those, and chose these two, which I didn't really use. I always started the run off with an illegal broadcast and went straight to easy. This time I wanted to change my loadout a bit, and added the Orbital 120 barrage as well as the anti-material rifle. This mission took me a lot longer than I expected. I had to destroy some bot ammo and fuel. Seems simple, right? As someone who's been playing against nothing but bugs for the past few weeks, I couldn't seem to understand bullets being used against me. And I discovered my least favourite automaton enemy once again, the Berserkers. Luckily, this was the only mission where I really struggled with them, as it was my first time fighting them for a good few weeks. You'd think that after doing nothing but fighting bugs up close, I'd be able to handle a bot that does the exact same thing. After working out how to blow up the bot's ammo and fuel, I went to extract. Even though this was only the second difficulty, the mission took me a whole 15 minutes to finish, which is a lot longer than I thought. For medium, I went with an escape pod. Once again, I switched my weapons around a bit to see what worked. The mission wasn't too hard. All I had to do was dive down, upload the data from the escape pod, and then extract. Instead of trying to kill everything at extraction, I decided to sit in the corner and hope that the bots were too blind to see me, which they were. I use this strategy of hiding behind containers and buildings in every extraction so that I'm not immediately gunned down, and it works most of the time. Another shuffling of weapons later, and I'd forgotten the airburst needed a backpack, so I only had one shot of it to try and destroy those dropships. And I missed. The orbital laser makes a good replacement and wiped out the base. I stealthed over to the next base without being detected. A 500kg bomb took care of the dropships, so it was on to extraction. Like the previous mission, I found a nice place to tuck myself in and wait for Pelican 1 to come pick me up. Which is what I would have said, if not for...
Warning, you are in range of enemy artillery.
So I had to walk on over, blow up the mortars without alerting too many bots, and went back to calling the extraction. And once again, I was stopped from leaving as a few bots decided it would be funny to ruin my day. To make things even better, the laser I called down destroyed the bit of cover that I would have used to hide in extraction. So finally, I waited for Pelican 1 and finished the mission. And now, time to get hard. It was time for an ICBM, and I would like to introduce my new least favourite thing, secondary objectives. These can come in the form of anti-air emplacement, detector tower, stratagem jammer, gunship fabricators, and the worst of all, the mortars. Near I'd find the launch codes with the gunship fabricator, so I went to go and blow it up, and got back to finding the codes. More walking later, and I cleared out the bots surrounding the generator, and then stealthed my way back to the ICBM, which was yet again surrounded by bots. It was here that I finally realised how to beat these missions. Enemies will always spawn on objectives, but there aren't usually too many that are that hard to kill. The problem starts when a bot calls in a dropship that deploys the bigger stuff like tanks and hulks. All this means is that as long as I kill all the enemies that call those dropships in, I should be fine. So with that, the ICBM was done, and I sat by extraction. Extreme. Stealth was really important if I wanted to finish this mission alive. There would be way too many bots to handle if I was seen, so I had to stay undetected for as long as possible. I chucked a laser to get rid of the dropships, which worked without anyone seeing me. Good so far. While crawling around to blow up the airbase control tower, I found the funny rock, and gained many radioactive tumours from carrying uranium by my side for the rest of the mission. Even if this Helldiver managed to finish Helldive, I doubt he'd live a fun life after. Getting into the airbase without being seen was a pain. There are a decent amount of bots, so I did the first thing I thought of. Commit as much murder as I could get away with in a short amount of time. After turning the airbase and every bot in the area into slush of oil and metal, I walked on over to extract, which wouldn't have been so bad if I didn't have to extract in the centre of an automaton base. And to make things even funnier, unfortunately, I was low on ammo and stims and my stratagems were on cooldown, so I resorted to running around in circles for 5 minutes, waiting for my stratagems to be ready, missing the mortars, and doing the whole thing again. All the while trying not to get lobotomized by one of the many lasers. But finally, I'd done it. The mortar was down, and I was off to extraction. My lack of stims meant I needed to resupply, but I'd thrown it in front of a heavy devastator. I made a dash for the resupply, but just as I was about to grab one, I died.
I was there, man. I was there.
Attempt 2. Illegal broadcast, another illegal broadcast, ICBM,
Right.
with an illegal broadcast thrown in as well, and extract. Things were going smoothly. In difficulty 4, I had to grab this hard drive and upload the data. Seems easy, right? Until you realise you have to carry it across the map and are only able to use your secondary. And of course,
Oh,
nothing happened. I uploaded it and extracted.
let's go.
Once again, it was time to get hard. Grab launch code, start the generator, launch the ICBM, and have to go AFK for a minute. Attempt 3. I decided to do a kill automaton mission for easy and found that it takes up the whole 15 minutes because of how slowly they drop in. So I told myself that I probably shouldn't do this mission again. ICBM time for 3 and transmit data for 4, which is all good until I saw a stratagem jammer.
Oh, you bastard.
I took down the tower and was greeted with this lovely face when I went to get the hard drive. Attempt 4. I'd gotten onto hard
Right.
and did another ICBM, where I'd done the whole mission pretty easily, until I got to extraction time. I was hiding behind this rock where I thought nothing could see me, but for some reason the bots must have wall hacks on and started shooting me through the rock. I was then treated to a nice 27 kills with the Eagle, and was quickly dismembered by a Devastator soon after. Attempt 5. Everything was going well, until I got into challenging, where I decided to test the spear. At this time, the spear had a silly bug where sometimes aiming would crash the game. I chose to ignore this since I hadn't had any issues with crashing before and I thought it'd be fine. Well, that was until Attempt 6. The second time in the challenge, I made it to extreme, and pretty much as soon as I landed, tang. Attempt 7. I tried killing a factory strider on challenging and found out why that's not a great idea. Attempt 8. Once again, things were going the same way as the bugs. I'd get to the difficulties where the tougher enemies spawn and get folded, so something had to change. After looking at some suggestions on what to do for the bots, I'd finally settled on this loadout, and I'd also taken interest in a certain mission type, Blitz, Search and Destroy. These missions are only 12 minutes long, so each run no longer takes up more than an hour or so. All you have to do is go around the map, throw stratagems at the bot bases, and the mission is done. And more importantly, you can stealth them decently well. That is, if you know what you're doing, which I don't. So finally, attempt 9. As always, the first 2 missions went smoothly. I wanted to shake it up a bit by choosing a destroy transmission network, where you have to find these towers and blow up the panels. One thing I noticed is that the autocannon takes out a tower instantly, and it's another reason why it's the best support in the game. One data mission later, and I could start on the search and destroy. The planet I landed on, Menken, has huge rocks, so loads of cover, which makes these missions a lot easier. Stealth was definitely a big part of these missions if I wanted to make it out alive. So let me introduce to you my favourite way of clearing out a bot camp. This is a 380 orbital barrage. Throw one roughly in the middle of a base and watch as everything dies. If that doesn't get rid of everything, either throw in a laser or Eagle airstrike to finish it off. Luckily, I didn't need that here as I'd already got rid of a few bases before. It was extraction time. For some reason, I kept hiding behind these crates, despite me knowing that every time I'd done that, the bots see me. So of course, the bots saw me. With a few grenades and unfortunate timing of the tornadoes, which by the way always spawn in the last few minutes of this planet, I made it. After 8 runs, I'd finally made it past hard and was on to extreme. No time to celebrate or mentally prepare myself for my inevitable death, I dropped back down. As soon as I landed, I saw a gunship fabricator, and for some reason it had barely any bots to protect it, making it an easy target. Once the fabricator was turned into rubble, I headed over to the next bot base, avoiding blind bots along the way. 380 barrage cleared pretty much the whole base, leaving me with one fabricator left. One laser later and I was done. I had to make sure extraction went smoothly, so I resupplied, pulled in Pelican 1, and waited. No bots had spotted me. We were now on to difficulty 7, suicide mission. This was now the furthest I'd gotten against both the bots and the bugs, so once again, down I went. Same mission. This time, I only had to get rid of 4 fabricators. Found the small outpost for only 1, and for some reason, decided to use a laser on it. This wasn't a great idea, as the cooldown is over 5 minutes and I just wasted it on 1 fabricator. Anyway, that doesn't matter, and I crawled over to a bigger base and threw in the 380, only alerting a few bots. And very quickly, the base was cleared and the mission was finished. I took care of the few bots following me and headed to extraction. I resupplied, cooled down the ship, tried not to get killed by the fire, and waited. This spot once again proved to do well. What didn't do well, however, were the fire tornadoes that surrounded me while I had my map out and set me on fire. Well, shit. I didn't want to give up now. I'd spent 25 runs on bugs, so I planned to do the same with the bots. So with that, I kept diving. A 10-10. Same strategy as before. Once again, I'd made it to extreme and had to destroy fabricators. 1 down, 4 more to go. I used an eagle to blow up the second one, is what I would have said if it wasn't gunned down while running away. Attempt 11. I was 1 fabricator away from finishing when I dropped the eagle stratagem and... Attempt 21. I had a good feeling about this run. I got onto Helldivers and knew that this would be it. First up, illegal broadcast. After killing this bot, I decided there was too much of it left in one piece, so I started firing, forgetting that my gun's explosive damage. And attempt 22. After the horrendous failure of 21, I didn't want to give up yet, so illegal broadcast, and an ICBM. Once I was on challenging, it was time to search and destroy. The mission was going pretty well, aside from a few close calls, and my strategy of throwing stratagems at bot bases seemed to be working. I made it most of extraction without being noticed, but still managed to board Pelican 1 and escape. Hard. Hard started with me throwing a 380 into a base and alerting gunships, but once those were taken care of, I got to it. One thing you might have noticed about this planet is that there's barely any cover. This is the problem, as there's nothing blocking the bot's line of sight, so they can shoot me from as far away as they want, and for some reason, I didn't think to switch planets after noticing this. Extraction was stressful. The whole time I was sat in this spot, fire tornadoes would get decently close to me, and there was a gunship flying around that I was sure would see me, and even after all that, I made it. Remember how I said that there was no cover? Well, forget that, because this should be a whole lot easier. I went around the map, blowing up fabricators, and finding not 1, but 2 mortars. So, I dealt with them. Overall, this was going well. Extraction time. I didn't have a chance to look for a good spot because of the fire, so I went for the first place with a bit of cover. Because of the modifiers, it would take Pelican 1 3 minutes to get to me instead of 2. Fire, as always, made things worse by brushing past me a few times. And there was this moment where the bots walked right past me, without seeing me, somehow. With a very encouraging message on the way down, I was ready to finally beat this challenge. This hope of winning was immediately crushed, as when I landed into difficulty 7, I saw this. Absolutely no cover. or barely any. To make things worse, there was apparently an automaton base on extraction, and I couldn't see any fabricators. So I left that problem for future me to solve, and set off. Things were looking promising. The 380 I'd thrown was doing a lot of damage, and a few shots with the autocannon left me with only one fabricator left. But this was when everything went downhill. I thought that I could go over to the base I'd used the 380 in, and pick off a fabricator from there. This turned out to be a horrible mistake. Whilst I was getting there, I'd alerted a few too many bots, so after seeing this was a bad idea, I sprinted towards extraction, hoping that I could get rid of the fabricator there. That was until I saw it, a factory strider. It was here that I realised I was probably done for. I just used my orbital lasers to get rid of the most of the bots firing at me, so my best shot at killing it was with the 380. And as soon as I did this, it saw me, and so did a Hulk, which chased me around for a bit, distracting me from the factory strider that fired its cannons, knocking me over, and allowing me to be obliterated by a bunch of lasers. So I sent 2 Helldivers down on the suicide run to kill this thing, which gave me immense satisfaction. There are a few more runs after attempt 22, but they all ended as you'd expect. So, can I be the bots in hardcore? Forget more cover and learn how to stealth better? Maybe. Am I going to do this again? No.